Hi everyone, in this lesson we are going to discuss exponent property number 4, which is the negative exponent property. The negative exponent property basically tells us that we are not allowed to leave our answer with negative exponents. So if it's negative, you're going to pick it up from where it is and you're going to move it to the opposite side of the fraction. Okay, so the formal definition says if an exponent is negative, move the base and exponent to the opposite side of the fraction and make the exponent positive. So if you need to pause the video to write that down, go ahead and pause. Okay, so an example, basic example that we'll go through first is if you have something that's x to the negative fourth. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is make it into a fraction. So put it over 1. Take the exponent that's positive, the exponent that's negative, and you're going to move it to the opposite side of the fraction to make it positive. So that x to the fourth would move to the bottom, become positive. You need your placeholder of 1 on top so that we know that it's 1 over x to the fourth. Okay, so basically you're picking up whatever's negative, you're moving it to the opposite side of the fraction to make it positive. Okay, so let's look at a few examples below. I'm going to jump around a little bit. Again, just making sure that we all understand the negative exponent property. Letter A is similar to the problem that I just did. You're going to make it into a fraction, so put it over 1. You're going to take the base and the negative exponent, move it to the opposite side of the fraction. When you move it, you make it positive. So it would be 1 over z to the second. You need the 1 there. That's your placeholder to say the entire answer is in the denominator. Okay, letter B also has a negative exponent, so let's make it into a fraction. Put it over 1. But the difference here is now you have a negative in front of the 8. We are not concerned about this negative there. That stays there. You're allowed to have a negative coefficient in an answer. We are not allowed to have these exponents negative. Okay? So we're going to take this whole term, move it to the denominator so that we can make it positive. Okay? We need our placeholder of 1 on top. So your answer is 1 over negative 8 to the second. Okay? The parentheses for B are still there just so that you know that negative goes with the 8. Okay? Any other problem, we would get rid of those. All right, letter C, we have 1 over 2 to the negative third. Again, we don't want the negative there, so you're going to circle the base with the negative exponent. You're going to move it to the opposite side of the fraction. So I'm still going to make our fraction bar. It's going up top this time. So it becomes 2 to the positive third. If you want to put your placeholder of 1 on the bottom, you may. This one on top is technically still there, but since it's a 1, I'm just going to get rid of it because 1 times 2 to the third is just 2 to the third. So if you want to simplify that even further, your answer is just 2 to the third. Okay? All right, letter D, a little different here. Letter D does not have any negative exponents. But this does follow property 2, which is when you divide same base, you're subtracting exponents. So we're going to keep our base the same, which is 7. Subtract bigger exponent minus smaller exponent. Keep your answer where the bigger exponent is. So you would have 1 over 7 to the second. Okay, so you will see some other properties thrown in. because when I start to mix up the exponent properties, you want to make sure you're familiar with all of them. Okay, letter E. Okay, so this one can be a little tricky. Let's first set up our problem. Draw your fraction bar. You're going to take any base and negative exponent and move it to the opposite side. So on the bottom, you're going to have 6 to the second times 6 to the second. They are both in the denominator because this one right here is positive. So you are going to keep it where it is. Okay, I'm going to put my placeholder of a 1 on top. But that's not done. You may simplify that further. When you multiply same base, remember, property 1 tells us we are adding exponents. So keeping that in exponential form, it becomes 1 over 6 to the 4th. Okay. All right, let's do a few more of these. Okay, letter F starts to get a little tricky here. So typically, you're going to see problems like this where there's more than one variable. Okay. The very first thing in all exponent problems that you want to do is check and see if you see any negative exponents. If you do, you're going to move them to the opposite side of the fraction. Okay, so notice that I'm drawing circles and arrows so that we can move them. So our y to the 5th was already there. Okay, that z to the 4th moves to the top. Okay, on the bottom, that x to the negative 2nd moved down, but you still have a w and a y to the 8th there. Okay, so check and make sure that you still have all the variables. You don't want to forget anything. Once you make everything positive, all your exponents positive, you want to look and see, do we have any bases that repeat? Okay, and I'll put my 1 here. So you have a y here and a y here. Okay, and that's the only base that repeats at this point. So let's make our fraction bar. Okay, let's simplify that y first. That y becomes y to the 3rd. Okay, and it stays on the bottom because the bigger exponent's on the bottom. So I'll cross that off. Your z to the 4th stays on top. Your x to the 2nd and your w to the 1st stay on the bottom. You know you're done when all the bases are different and you do not have any negative exponents. Okay, so hopefully that one made sense. All right, let's look at letter H. Yeah, let's do letter H and I. Okay, actually, we're going to do H, I, and O, and that should be good enough for you guys to try the assignment without me. Okay, so letter H, similar to the last problem. Okay, we do see bases repeating, but we also see negative exponents. Okay, so we're going to move them to opposite sides. So the x to the 3rd becomes positive, goes to the top. Keep t to the 2nd on top. Our x to the negative 7th goes to the bottom, becomes positive. We're just going to leave the t to the 3rd there. Okay. Once you make everything positive, again, now look and see what bases we have that are the same. So we have our x's and we have our t's. Okay. So you're going to simplify. So I'm going to make our fraction bar again. The x becomes x to the 4th, goes on the bottom. The t becomes t to the 1st, stays on the bottom. Okay, again, leaving things where the bigger exponents are. So your solution for h is 1 over x to the 4th, t to the 1st. Okay, letter I. All right, so this one, you will reduce your coefficient in front. We don't see any negative exponents, so we don't need to worry about that. So 3 over 7 on your calculator or in your head reduces to 1/9. The x becomes x to the second, goes on the bottom because that's where your bigger exponent is. What does the y become? Okay, hopefully you're saying y to the fourth. It goes on top because that's where your bigger exponent is. Okay, and then let's look at one more together here. Okay, letter O has a lot of stuff going on here. So let's make our fraction bar. Let's look at our coefficient. So remember, it's okay to have a negative coefficient. You do not need to get rid of those negative symbols. It's only when your exponents are negative that we need to get rid of them. Negative 8/3 cannot be simplified, so you just are going to rewrite that. All right. You're now going to look at where we have negative exponents. Okay. So we have one negative exponent here, and we have 2 on the bottom. All right. So let's rewrite this neatly. Okay. So we can keep track of what we still need to simplify. So the a to the 4th and b to the 7th are still on the top. The 2 that we moved are b to the 6th and c to the 4th. On the bottom, I'm going to rewrite my a to the 6th, and c to the 4th goes down. Okay? Once you see that you have all positive exponents, we are now cleaning this up. Okay? So the bases that we see repeating are the a's, the b's up here, and then our c here and here. Okay, so applying all those properties, we have negative 8/3 still there. The a becomes a to the second, goes on the bottom, again where that bigger exponent is. Cross those off. The b, you're multiplying same base, so that becomes b to the 13th. What happens to the c's? Okay, hopefully you're saying that they cancel. The c's are the same, so either it becomes a 0 exponent, which turns to 1, or you can say that it cancels. Okay, so your answer for that is negative 8 b to the 13th over a to the second. So again, the negative exponent property is telling us, do not leave any answers with negative exponents. Okay, if you have a negative exponent, you're going to make it positive. Okay. One more thing I just thought of before I end this video. Letter J, which is a very basic example, but just remember problems like J, okay, this negative 6 is fine, okay, which is what I was just reviewing. The P to the negative 7th is what you move down and make positive, okay. Again, summarizing this property, it's the negative exponents that you're moving or switching from the top or bottom of the fraction. And always move it to the opposite side to make positive. Okay, so make sure you guys try the assignments that I have in Google Classroom. I will review those in a few days. And we have one more property left, and then I will start mixing them up. Okay, hope all's well. Everyone have a great rest of the week.